All right, hello, collective. Welcome back to another episode of the spiritual trauma healing. This one was requested. We're going to talk about it. Supernatural scares, spookism within the supernatural, just dealing with these types of events, dealing with spirits and entities that come across, and just knowing how to kind of handle them. There's a lot that goes into this. Um, so we're not going to be able to talk about everything, but we're going to give you just advice on how to handle certain things in case you do end up running into a situation, or if you do need to heal from a situation that you're in as well. But as I said, this one was requested from someone. We're going to leave the name blank. You can also leave requests in for the series that are happening. I should probably mention that, but you can leave requests in for this series if there's something that you're wanting me to touch on sooner than later. If I've already touched on it, I most likely won't be doing a return video as it has a different subject attached to it. But this is something I see a few people deal with, and funnily enough, this isn't really something I struggle with at all. I've had a whole life full of supernatural occurrences, and I never really got scared of them. It was more of a privilege for me to grow up being as close as I am to spirits and supernatural events, just cryptids in general, because I've experienced them since I was a younger age, so I was able to adjust these things easily before I was dirtied up to think that these things don't exist, or even privileged enough to have parents that didn't say that things were real or fake and allowed me to grab my own determination from things. Even as a child, when they told me about Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and the Easter Bunny, I knew they weren't real. um I seen through the costumes that people wore. I was like, this stuff is not real. I don't know what's going on with y'all. So I was privileged enough to have that type of eye-opening experiences of that nature, especially since opening my third eye when I was younger and having it open for a long time. I've just seen through things. So for those who are psychopomps, I'm not going to use the term medium because it's not the correct term. We're gonna stick with psychopomp because it's more of a correct term. But for those who grew up with the abilities to just see spirits, talk to them, have these supernatural experiences, seeing cryptids and all that stuff, seeing woodland creatures, if you want to call them that as well, being from the Appalachian, that's usually what we call them anyway. But having that type of privilege, it is very good to have. It's very eye opening. It connects you to source, it connects you to spirit a lot easier than how others have to deal with it, especially those who involve themselves first with the spookism and then don't believe it and try out out of speculation. We tend to have an easier time with it. Um, but for those that have that experience, um, I don't know how it personally feels. So this is all information that I've gathered through meditation, asking my guides. But even though I've never had a bad or scary experience per se with any entity, it doesn't mean others didn't and don't. So I'll do my best to talk about these, how to overcome the trauma caused by these events, what causes the trauma to occur in the first place as well. But a few points we're going to need to talk about directly is why we have supernatural occurrences, how to handle them, why they can be disturbing, and a few tips to be used if you're dealing with one or dealing with any type of supernatural event, really. Um, or if you just want to get used to them, of course, not even deleting them or being okay with them, but if you want to get used to them and dive more into that realm of yourself, then this is going to really help you with that as well. At the end of the day, though, there are many different supernatural events that can happen, so we won't really go over all of them in one video. I'll do my best to give an example or two for each topic just to help connect some dots. So this video might not be long either, because again, I don't have that much experience in it. If I get some memos to pop in and out through this, I'll definitely do that. But this might be a shorter video. But that's okay. We'll still get enough information out that I feel is going to be beneficial, at least just to get your foot through the door. So let's start with why we have supernatural occurrences. And we're going to break down the word supernatural. And supernatural just means any property or power that transcends the natural above the natural, but not against it. And you can think of the term superhuman when you hear supernatural. As people who do human things such as lifting cars in stressful situations and all these things go against what man can do, but not they don't go against what's natural as they're above it. You know, you can lift anything with the amount of strength, but it's above the natural. Not everyone can lift a car. That takes some help, assistance from something super or above, over or beyond the natural way of living or natural observations. So many people see poltergeist activity. We'll start poltergeist because that's usually what people see. Such as thing confirmation with that. I don't know if y'all heard that. That was funny. Such as things being removed or thrown around without someone or something actually physically or visibly touching it or moving it. Though it can be startling um, to see, it can be a sign of communication. Um, Sometimes you lose things when you're looking for it, like, oh, I need to get my car keys, I need to leave, but maybe you don't need it, or maybe you need to slow down before leaving. It could literally be your spirit or your a spirit or a spirit team, your ancestors, however, trying to guide you away from a disaster. It could even be your spirit guides or the spirit trying to get your attention to do something else that's a little bit more important. Regardless, when we see these things move on their own, it goes against what we're taught, which is a physical action needs to happen in order for something to occur. That's what we're taught based off of our observations at youth, especially if we don't have supernatural events growing up. We're just kind of taught by, you know, simple observations that something can't move unless someone's doing something. Like, oh, someone's opening a door to leave, so I'm physically watching them open the door. But what if someone's opening a door when they enter? Well, I can't see through the door, but they're still there opening the door. So the door opens by itself, but then something goes through, right? These are like natural occurrences. The supernatural occurrence is like the door opening on its own, right? And that goes against a lot of what we're taught and what we know, simply because we weren't taught the full spectrum, only one part of it. Now, believing in this statement keeps you away from the spiritual realm, which then causes fear, as when we see something happen like that type of incident, it breaks a law we put in our mind that was that was placed in our mind. So, like, again, like opening a door, we know that there has to be something or someone walking through or doing that. It doesn't just happen on its own, quote unquote, right? But then when it does happen on its own, it sparks up your system, because, like, oh, so what's going on? Am I in threat? Is it a danger? Why hasn't nothing happened yet? Why is nothing visible? This is the super and the supernatural. We can go a step further by saying we can see a spirit or an entity with our own eyes. Growing up as a child psychopomp, I seen many spirits with my own eyes, many many cryptids, many everything with my own eyes. I've even played with a few of them, talked to them, and befriended a few. Not this is not you know, this is also another form of communication that they have. But it also allows you to have access to the spiritual realm. It allows you to know that you do have access to it. It allows you to know that it exists, and a more personal connection to it as well. Many who show themselves to you really just want to talk or exchange some sort of energy with you. Um, you know, each spirit will do as they please depending on who they are and what the energy interaction between you two is. This goes a bit deeper, but we'll talk about that for a later part of this video, as it's more fitting for them. Um, but seeing is more than believing. Seeing is knowing, and a lot of times we would rather just have a belief. We would rather just see a lie than see the truth, which can be very uncomfortable when you see the truth of spirits or these entities being real, let alone knowing that they can see you as well and want to speak, be around you, or interact with your life. These things can be very startling to people. Just as everything else, though, they can sense fear. Some spirits will disappear when they sense your fear. Others will play off your fear and drain it, and create more energy and more events happening around you. Again, it truly depends on how the spirit is and how you react and how they wish to react. Some spirits don't even know that they're dead either, which could be another reason for why you see them or why they're trying to come towards you, because they think that they're still alive. And if you are someone or something that can see them out of everyone else that can't, it's like, okay, so if you can see me, then you're my only line of contact, and I don't know what's going on. So, you know, I'm going to just keep coming towards you and seeing what interactions I can have with you. just to see like what goes on, you know, because some spirits really don't know that they're dead, and that's the unfortunate part. But sometimes they'll get trapped in this loop where they're stuck on this realm and they believe that they're still alive. They still do everything daily. They can move the objects just fine. They're in their own realm basically. But to us, we just see something open and it's like, what the fuck's going on, right? A lot of people don't know how to handle supernatural situations as well. They either make them worse or end up hurting themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, and even sometimes spiritually. Every situation needs to be handled differently. And truly, if you are needing to communicate with the spirit, it's best to have someone with experience with you or to get consultation to see how you need to talk to them, if, what they want, and to see if you can actually help them if that's the case. There's a reason to everything, and sometimes we're aware of it, other times we're not. Some reasons are better than others as well. When it comes to spirit, you need to be strong in spirit. That's the energetic plane you're messing with, okay? So on the physical, you need to be more strong on the physical. On the emotional plane, you need to be more strong emotionally. On the mental force, you need to be strong more mentally. And on the spiritual plane, you need to have more spiritual strength. If you're trying to remove an evil spirit from your house, you need to have spiritual strength, obviously. And that involves mental strength and everything else, but you need to have the strength that's in spirit, right? You need to stand on what you desire. You cannot be shaky and ask the ghost or the spirit to leave. You need to tell the spirit what you need it to do, as it's in your house, it's in your energy. It will take advantage and begin to create more fear, and create more passive energy from you, so that it can overthrow what you're doing. There's actually a video that I seen like a while ago of a woman saging her house and asking spirits to leave rather than like telling them. It's like, can you please leave? Like at first she's like, you need to leave now. And it was like, that was good. But then she goes, can you please leave me and my family alone? I don't know what you want. You're scaring us and all these things. And it's like, oh, come on, why are you doing that? And whenever that happened, there were a bunch of stuff, just, you know, stuff started flying around, kept the door started swinging open. All these events started happening because the spirit was like, oh, since you're not going to, you know, tell us what to do, and now you're asking, now I'm going to say no. And now I'm going to throw a fit because that's what they can do. You know, this is not the right way of removing a spirit. The sage wasn't the problem, it was the woman's demeanor and determination and the words that she was using. She gave off a very passive, small energy that was easily overthrown and could be easily overthrown as well. If you do not want something in your energy, you say no and mean it. You set that boundary no matter how much force the external side is pushing on you. Fear can be hard as diamond, but you have to take the heat that the fear causes to solidify you in one area rather than melting you down and making you more liquid, right? Sometimes the spirit won't leave you alone because you are there to help them. They will tell you how to help them and what they need, and sometimes you either don't know how to help them, can't do what they ask, or simply just can't hear them. This is when you need to contact a psychopomp or someone to get consultation to see what you can do, and to see if they can even give you advice on how to help them as well. See if they can tell you what they need help with, all these other things, even tell you how to clean that spirit from your place as well. Sometimes spirits can be around you to annoy you as well. Um, you know, trickster spirits, some just want to talk to you, some just have traumas that they want to get off their chest, and it may be overwhelming. You can also say no and set a boundary for those spirits as well. You have the right to tell them no, just as you do a person. The same way the person might throw a fit is the same way the spirit will too. So be ready for that. Be overstanding and keep that boundary as well if that's what you're looking to do. A lot of people who don't even realize who they are or what their purpose is when it comes to messing with spirits as well. And some people are genuinely here to guide spirits through this realm so they can get back home, so they can get back to where they belong actually. And that makes them, a lot of people, uncomfortable. Some people just aren't ready to do it, and some people will flat out ignore your purpose, though that can be spiritually damaging to you and what you're supposed to be doing on this realm. You can still decline it, um but there is definitely a repercussion to pay for that. I'm not too sure what that would be because I personally picked up my purpose and have ran with it. But if you're not willing to, that's completely on you. Just be sure that you're okay with that. You know, I do know for that it can cause a lot of spirits to become agitated at you to have less respect for you in that sense. So if you were to be sent a spirit and they know that you weren't on that path, they would be more apt to cause more fear and more interruptions in your life since you aren't helping them. That's a very possible thing. These spirits can carry energy and emotions, I mean, from past lives, from past things, and project that out because simply that's all they're doing. The energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transmuted and transformed. And that's why you heal, because you wouldn't really want to become a spirit, at least, that is invoked in all that trauma, right? At least I would hope not. Regardless, um, it's very important to make sure of that as well. As it's also when you are talking to a spirit, if you are communicating with spirits, right? Be be very overstanding with them. Don't be pushy. You know, ask them questions that you would like to be asked if you were dead. Don't like annoy them. I haven't met too many problems or repercussions with asking a spirit how they passed away. Then again, I always build up a very strong connection with them first before I even ask that question. Sometimes they outright will tell me, and I don't have to worry about that. Sometimes I just pick it up naturally, but normally I wouldn't ask a spirit how they passed away, especially if it was a traumatic way, because that can cause them to throw a fit. The same way that you feel that upheaval energy inside of you whenever you have a trauma that's faced up happens to these entities. The difference between you and these spirits, though, is you have a physical vessel that then harbors and keeps the energy in. These spirits don't. So it just projects out. And if that projection's of anger and it's like, oh, I'm mad, so I'm going to throw something as my trigger response, instead of needing to activate on the physical, it's just going to go ahead and do that shit. So that's what you got to be aware of as well. Also, not all the time when you meet a spirit that's very active like that and throws things, not every time is it like a bad thing. Sometimes spirits will start throwing things as a sign to warn you. I've very much had doors shut in my face as like a protection measure from spirits, and that shit's like, you think it's like bad, but no, it's a protection thing. You've really had to be in tune, especially if you are one to contact these spirits and to talk to them. You have to be very in tune with what's actually going on. You need to be very, very in tune, like with the energy around you, so you know how they're acting, so you know how these spirits are trying to communicate to you. Because not again, it's not everything's like a bad occurrence, but when you have this spookism inside of you still, where everything is like, oh, everything's bad, it's all moving on its own, you know I've had people send me entities that were evil. Well, that was them, that was that person's will with the entity, not really what the entity wanted to do. Now of course there are some that are just out here to cause chaos and havoc. That's them though. Don't take your trauma and plaster it over everything else. That's not how you heal, that's how you avoid, and a lot of people do that on many levels. So if you're unable to do that and see that on the spiritual level, good luck in doing it on any other level, because guess what? That spirit or energy inside of you that's making you project outwardly like that is going to follow you on every other single plane. And you have to get over it spiritually before, not even get over it, but grasp it spiritually before you can actually move forward on any other plane. That is just how it is. Everything happens in spirit first. That is the order of operations. Okay. But be very gentle with yourself when it comes with supernatural spooks, because again, not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone is open to that. A lot of people have the spookism from religion, where they're like, "Oh, this is all bad, and these spirits are trying to curse me and ruin me," or it's spookism from watching movies and thinking that they need to get a fucking exorcism. Now, let me tell you something about exorcisms. Not everyone needs an exorcism. I've gotten a few requests for exorcisms, and the person doesn't really need an exorcism. Um, Funnily enough, exorcisms are rare. Um, though spirits can go into bodies, the only time you need an exorcism is if you're doing it without any sort of control. If you don't remember what you're doing, there are things. There are literal orders of operations. There's questions that need to be answered a certain way. There are certain things that need to be happening within the human body to determine if you need an exorcism. They're not as common as you think. Unfortunately, the Holly weird has wanted to project out that everyone, how fucking weird they are in exorcisms. Like looking back at the movie The Exorcist and stuff, even though that was a case that happened and yada yada yada, not all exorcisms look like that. That's a very extreme case of an exorcism. There's a lot of other exorcisms that you can look up as well. Those are extreme cases. A lot of the time, your exorcism isn't involving all that. The whole throwing up spiel doesn't normally happen. That can happen with a very agitated spirit, of course, or resistance, depending on the vessel that they go in as spirit as well, but they're not needed a lot. A lot of, like what we see a lot is the extremes of exorcisms. And trust me, I've gone around and I've seen, not in person, of course, but I've watched many videos on exorcisms and seeing how they are from like less to greater um, experiences. So don't feel like you need an exorcism when you're dealing with the spirit, because unfortunately when you're on earth in this weird realm, everything has a spirit in it. So for you to say like you need an exorcism, well, what are you exorcising? Like, what are you getting out? You know what I mean? What are you removing? What spirit do you want to remove from yourself so bad? Is it one that you can do on your own that you actually don't need a whole ritual and ceremony for? Or do you actually need a ceremony for it, right? And these things that people want to answer, be like, yes, I do need a whole ceremony. Ends up they don't really need a ceremony, they just need self-control. But the spookism about spirits are also evil, are also these evil demonic spirits. What isn't seen is the ones is the one thing they all have in common, which is a traumatic ending to their life. Most hostile spirits and spirits that are evil in that sense, they have trauma from their life that they're unable to rest from. And until they receive the help they need, to which many spirits either don't want help, have had bad experiences with the help, or however, whatever experience that spirit has had, they'd rather inflict the same pain they felt on others. Very few spirits will actually end someone's life, but it's very possible that they can. Um, Many spirits are just curious and simply need some help getting to the other side. Others have messages to tell you, or have messages to pass on to someone, or are loved ones that come down to you that want to talk to you or talk to someone around you, so that they know that they're still around and want to contact in some way. The fear of the supernatural world and encounters, though, comes from a belief in the spiritual realm rather than a knowing. If you're scared of supernatural events, it's because you actually do not believe in the spiritual realm. You have no true knowing of it. You just believe in it. And since that belief has now become a factual thing in your life, now that's scary to you. But all fear come from a lack of knowledge and a lack of knowing. Okay. If you know something, you wouldn't be as scared of it. This is why some people who have arachnophobia or any type of phobia, they'll study it. I had a friend who has arachnophobia, and he studied spiders so he would know how to respond to them. He It was crazy. He would look at a spider for like 2 seconds and see like, oh, that's like that spider's not gonna do anything. It's okay, and he wouldn't kill that spider because he knew what it was. And then we bumped into other spiders before, and he was like, okay, we need to get rid of this one now because this one's bad and X Y Z and all these things. But that's what that fear caused him to do, was to actually study it. If you're scared of ghosts or spirits, the spiritual realm, or spiritual encounters in that type of way, it's because you don't have any knowledge of it and you need to study it if that's the path you want to choose. Now, of course, this is really how you heal from it, is by really studying these things, okay? Truly. The only way to beat fear is with knowledge, and it's up to you to traverse that road. Remember as well, you're not the only one that goes through these experiences. Supernatural experiences happen daily, like every single damn day, like everything happens every day, really, but you know what I mean? So speak up and ask questions, and be sure that the person you go to for advice is a trusted person. Just for transparency purposes, Some people might have ill intents. Who cares about them? Just do so you have transparency, so you're able to actually be transparent with that person, so they can actually give you the best and beneficial help with your issue, rather than just telling you something you would want to hear, or telling you lies, or blowing smoke up your ass. Honesty is the best policy, tenfold and forever. Y'all know this. Remember as well to handle every interaction with determination and strength. Be open enough to hear or see what the interaction between you and the spirit can be, or what it's supposed to be. It can be hard if you been sent spirits to do you harm in the past, but you need to remember many of these spirits were summoned, which is going against their control, for the will of harm, and it's against what they want to actually do. In fact, most spirits, when they're summoned and sent to people, they don't even want to fucking bother you, but because they were sent there and commanded to do so, they just have to, right? There's a lot of things that can cause spookism in this realm, so stay open, study, and ask questions to those who know more than you, so that you stay up to date. All in all, though, all the scare from spiritual encounters come from spookism. Especially, I notice a lot of people, they'll jump into it due to speculation because of horror films and stuff. I actually had a funny story, not a funny story, but a story I have. I used to mess with Ouija boards a lot. I just talk to spirits all the damn time. Like, I used Ouija boards when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. Like, come on. You know what I mean? So I've been in this game for a while. I know how to do things. I know what's going on. At school, in high school, I think it was freshman. It was freshman graduate. It was freshman, the last week of school of my freshman year, and that's like the first year of high school for those that aren't in like the U.S. It's like that. I think that's the best way to explain it. Um, but we were messing with Ouija boards. It was me and one of my other friends named Jacob. He was pretty spiritual. He was a Buddhist, so he was pretty cool. But we were messing with the Ouija board that we made, and we had someone in the group that wasn't believing. They were skeptic, and they were just being an asshole to the spirit. Like, we were in contact with one. It was very beautiful. They were buried underneath the school. Their name was Sarah. All it was like, we got so much information from them, and the skeptic, I'm not gonna name him, the skeptic was mocking them and just like, I don't believe in you, give me proof that you're real. And all of a sudden he started feeling a burning sensation on his back, and he had some claw marks on his back, and we were like, why did you do that? Now this entity hates you and doesn't like, this entity hates you and likes us. Like, now what are we gonna do? Because now you're attached to us. Now we gotta watch out. But I helped him out. I gave him things to heal, not really to heal it, but to keep it at bay, to remove the entity. We did all sorts of stuff. We did a seance. We did like a seance in the bathroom. It was funny. We did a whole bunch of stuff to get this boy clean, because once he got the scratch marks on his back, we knew that there was something not going to be very pleasantly happening, and we didn't want him to have an attachment. All these things, we knew what we were doing. We did, however, get get told next year when we went back to school, not to mess with Ouija boards. because a lot of people found out what happened. So yeah, but don't, if you're gonna be skeptical, don't be mean or rude. The fact that people, and I've seen this a lot, there's actually a YouTube channel of these two YouTubers I used to watch a while ago, um but they made a ghost hunting channel called Nick and Ryan, and they have a demon following them because they don't take their hunts seriously. And I want to get in contact with them and like go on a ghost hunt with them or so. I really want to do ghost exploration. I don't know why we're going off topic and talking about this, but we will. But I do want to do ghost exploration. I wanted to like contact them and be like, y'all need to get that entity off of you. Like, oh, let me find me out there. I'll go ghost hunting. I'll clean this shit off of you. Y'all can have have a fun time again. That's just growing up, having a whole life full of spirits. Like, I wanted to be a gravekeeper when I was like 9. I wanted to go around and work in a graveyard. Like, I love talking. Like, it's my life. I've always lived this. It's a very magical life. It's a very privileged life to have such a clean, clear connection with entities like this. I will say, for those that also live in that life, it's a privilege because not everyone gets to see the happy side of it like this. Not everyone gets the trust, the respect from the spirit realm like that, and it can be very tantalizing and scary to those that aren't ready. Especially, it's a bigger privilege if you've actually done it since youth. Those that were either shunned for their gifts at youth and are just now getting into it, or those that are just now waking up to that. um it's harder because you have so much boundaries, you have so many opinions and gunk up in your head that's keeping you from seeing the wider spectrum of it. But regardless, don't walk in with, if you have speculation, don't try and you know brute force it. The spirits already know that they respect that you don't believe, or that you're trying to get a stronger truth of it. So they'll be more apt to respond sometimes. Now, this depends again on where you're at, to spirits, everything. They'll be more apt to respond, some of them will. And that puts you at risk for also possession because you don't have the like a temporary possession. Now this goes into exorcism, it's a whole thing. You can be you can have long-term or temporary possessions, even ones that happen on and off. So you'll be possessed, not even know it, then one day something crazy fucking happens, and then it doesn't happen for like a week, and then it happens again. There's a time frame for that whole thing. There's a whole bunch of I could make a whole ass essay on exorcisms and stuff, but I'd rather not at this point in time. Just haven't felt called to do so. But um you can have like temporary ones, you can get temporary possessed by it. There's a lot of videos online that show you what a temporary one looks like. There's ones that show you what long-term ones look like and all these things. But just being very careful because these entities, these spirits, in the spiritual realm of working with supernatural, events, even cryptids. And we'll talk a little bit about cryptids as well. But the ones within the spiritual realm, the spirits and the ghosts, and you know, they have higher power where they can enter vessels. They can go do all these things. With cryptids, I've had a lot of encounters with cryptids. Growing up in just in the Appalachians, I mean, you can't really escape that. um, but it's been a lot of time in the woods at night as a child, so I definitely, I've seen a lot of wildlife, I've seen a lot of cryptids, I've seen a lot of shadow people, I've seen about everything. I lived next to a family cemetery growing up, so I've seen just about I've seen it all. Honestly, I can't even lie. I've grew up around it so much, it's not even like a joke. It is kind of funny, I'm not even gonna lie. um but with cryptids, it's important to not have fear as well, because again, these are all things that can pick up fear. Cryptids, if you're not aware of what they are, what their purpose is, or like even how to pick up on their energy and read them to know if you're safe or not, I won't even bother with messing with them. I just turn around and walk away. Because some, listen, you gotta have to look at them like wild animals. Some of them will just straight up attack you and take you out, and others will just be around you to protect you. Some just like to watch. Literally, I bumped into a few cryptids that just stalk, and they just sit around, they just sit behind trees and stalk you and all sorts of shit. And you just have to let them do that. They ain't, some of them aren't trying to hurt you, some of them are just trying to look at you because they're just as scared as you are of them. It's a whole other world, so just be careful. I might have to do a whole video on cryptids. Because it's another realm, but it still is pretty supernatural to see them. um but not being afraid of them. They exist here just the same as you and me, giving them the respect, the space. Don't invade their privacy. Just let them live and go on your own path. If you see their houses and their homes, stay away. They're hostile just like us. Okay. um but all in all, this has been the video on supernatural scares. I hope it helps someone. Again, this isn't really a topic I can relate to so much, again, just because of how I grew up, but I believe I gave some very beneficial advice. All in all, do your studying when it comes down to this stuff, because the fear just comes from an unknown. The fear comes from a belief. Oh, I believe they're all evil, so now I'm scared of everything. Oh, I believe that they're all this or that they're all that, or I just believe that they exist. I don't know what they're doing here. Look into it. Some are lost. Some want to go home. Some are cursed here for a minute. You know, some have messages, some are just visitors, some are stuck here forever, some don't even know that they are here. It's all these things. So, you know, keep an open mind, an open heart when it comes to these entities. You know, saying no, using your protection. Salt and rice are your best friends. Salt and white rice, white rice in like a clear mason jar are like your best friends when it comes to needing to get rid of entities. For those that know, you know. For ones that don't, you don't. If you need help with removing an entity from your house, just put a jar of white rice on at each corner of the house, and like you change it. I believe you change it weekly or monthly. It all depends, but it's said that if a demon sees a jar of rice, it will go into that jar and it will count every grain of rice, and if it's still in the jar by sunrise, it's trapped in the jar. That's what they say. That's the lore behind that. But regardless, this is the episode on spiritual scares and supernatural spooks. Hopefully this helps. I love you all. If you and as well, if you have any requests, feel free to email me or contact me with it, and I'll do my best. If I don't respond, don't worry. Sometimes I won't respond because I'm like doing something else, but I will always mark it down. But I love you all so much. To the moon and back tenfold and forever, and I will see you later.